Welcome back to the GTN show.
Yep, this week we have a nail-biting sprint finish.
A pro cyclist posting some rapid run times and teasing a triathlon debut.
Yep, Gwen Jorgensen winning another World Cup as she fights for Olympic qualification.
Plus, we discuss a bit of news that has caused a bit of a stir this week. That is Sam Laidlow's Instagram post revealing that he's been investigated by the ITA. Okay, kicking off the show, as we always do, with React, some of the stuff we've seen on the internet over the past week. Not the big thing we've seen on the internet, we'll get to that in a minute. But starting with this, Average Rob, if you're familiar with Average Rob is a YouTube sensation who goes and does different sports just once with very little training and tries to do it and gets a lot of views on YouTube. He's done all kinds of things like I did an Olympic bobsled and stuff like that.
Death diving.
Death diving was a recent one. Earlier this year, I did an Ironman. And to be fair, he didn't do that in 2 hours training and go and do it. He actually trained for like 6 months, and he had
Luke van Leert
and Freddie van Leert helping him prepare for it. And he smashed it. He finished it. And generally, what he does is one and done. But he did this in June. And he's just gone and done another triathlon. So we checked this out. He did a half distance in Portugal this past weekend, and there he is congratulating Peter Hemmerich at the finish. He didn't beat Peter Hemmerich, but he did the half. Peter Hemmerich did the full. Very impressive and very cool to see that he's still doing triathlon. Clearly, the bug has bitten.
Yeah, we're proper fanboys. We love his content. So yeah, good stuff. Also, if you haven't seen this already, the middle distance race in France this weekend from Challenge. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of it because Mika Newt was leading the race right up until a couple of meters before the finish line when Mathis Margier came sprinting through. There was a bit of toing throwing on the run, but wow, what a finish from Mathis, and
pretty dramatic
Mika Newt
finish.
Literally face planted just before the line.
Yeah, his legs just gave out on him when he tried to sprint on them. A for effort, but the plaudits go there to Matthias Margera for taking the win. Rico Bogan, 70.3 world champion, also not quite getting it right. He showed this how to not get off the bike, and he looked like he was coming in way too hot for that dismount, trying to dismount at 40 kilometers an hour. You can go 40 kilometers an hour on your bike, but you can't when you're running. And he took a bit of a tumble.
Yeah. Also, at the same race, I believe, a post from Frederick Funk regarding drafting, which, again, we heard a little bit about this last week, but didn't really have all the details. A few people spotted some rather close calls or drafting or athletes riding quite close behind one another. So he's got quite a long post here, and he goes on to say further on, I'm not saying everyone has to race like me, but it's part of the game to respect the rules, e.g. wearing a bib number on the bike when it's mandatory, and part of being a professional athlete is also to respect them when no one is watching. And yes, he's referring to this drafting, or the drafting distances, and a couple of people taking the mick.
Yeah, he does point out that he's not pointing the finger at Challenge Family, the race organisers. It's more the officials who are coming from the Spanish Federation who weren't really doing their job of officiating, potentially. Anyway, on to some more positive news. Sam Long and his girlfriend Laura Grunden have got engaged. They actually had a baby earlier this year, and now they're engaged. Congratulations, guys.
Hey, another bit of great news. Fenella Langridge and Billy, her partner, also got engaged post Kona, and been on a little bit of a holiday as well, having a great time.
Looks pretty cool. And then finally we have this from Joe Skipper, who ran a pretty fast 10K. Not bad for an old dog.
Yeah.
31:06 that's not too shabby.
They are shifting for an Ironman athlete. And also on the note of fast run times, Tom Dumoulin, the ex-pro cyclist, has been trying his hand at running this last year or two, and has just posted a 1:10:04 for half marathon in Amsterdam. And also, we've heard through, I think it was the Geraint Thomas podcast, that he is eyeing up an Ironman in the near future. Whoa. So watch this space.
Interesting. Bike record incoming. And then finally at Scrail, we did Scrail a couple of years ago. What a fun event that is. a gravel triathlon organised by Jan Frodeno in around Girona, and it looks like Macca was there. Chris McCormack, he did just the bike leg, managed to get out of the swim and the run he did, but another cyclist, Greg van Overmaat, did the whole thing and apparently won it, according to this post by Macca. Swap lives with the cycling legend today, Greg van Overmaat winning the Scrail Country Triathlon. Today was epic to see. I only did the bike section, and that was enough. Amazing course, backdrop, and fun event, and we can vouch for that. It is an amazing course and a very fun event. All right, moving on with our talking point of the week. And if you were under a rock this past weekend, you might not have noticed the talking point in triathlon wasn't Mika Nut taking a dive or the recent Ironman World Championships. It wasn't even the Super League Triathlon final that happened. It was a single post on Instagram by the recently crowned Ironman World Champion, Sam Laidlow.
Yeah, and we're going to actually read through that post today in case you missed it, and partly because you can't go and read it anymore. It's actually been deleted. And you know, if a post has been deleted, you want to read it more.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll comment on it. Or maybe we won't. Maybe it's better that we don't. Which is kind of the action that's been chosen by pretty much every one of Sam Laidlow's professional athlete peers. Anyway, let's read the story and then you make up your mind yourselves. So he posted this post, a photo of him having just won the Ironman World Championships, and then there's 8 slides that follow.
We'll try and sum them up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll try and run through them as quickly as we can. First, you will not take this away from me. Fighting words. Now you know what you're in for. The next post goes, today I'm disgusted, today I'm sad, and I'm being attacked, and I'm ready to go to war for the sport I love so dearly. Some frustrated humans have accused me of cheating the sport, and I will not let it be. I've poured my heart and soul into my performances and my recent world title. I know who I am. I'm willing to expose my past medical exams, my blood passport. I've never asked for a TUE in my life, and I've never even touched the grey zone that some athletes maybe do. No drugs, no needles, no hormones, nothing.
Yeah, and then it goes on to say, so let's start. Last year after Kona, Rudy's mother accused me of doping. Now this year, his father has taken it too far. He's been sending an email to many people for questions and has accused me several times with no evidence. Someone, likely him, started an investigation through the ITA, which is the International Testing Authority.
And the Rudy he's referring to is Rudy von Berg, so Rudy von Berg's father, Rodolph von Berg.
Yeah, which I'm happy to comply with, of course. All the names in beneath now have become my enemy, and I will never let go of the rain you have poured onto my career for no reason.
And then he goes into a whole list of people who have apparently accused him. Bryce Hackhart is a lost soul of a person, and I'm deeply sorry that you feel the need to invent rumors based on my feet growing slightly when I was 19. My feet grew very slightly from 13 to 18. I was malnourished and overtrained. When I moved back home and got healthy, my body carried on developing. And then Clement and Marjolaine, which is Clement Mignon and Marjolaine Pierre.
And this is quite an important one as well.
Yeah,
it seems to be brought up a lot.
I'm sad that you misunderstood my girlfriend's bad joke. I had to go and do my usual anti-doping test, and she said, oh yes, you'd better, especially with all the hormones you're taking. Referencing the rumors from Rudy's mum last year. In brackets, why the hell would my girlfriend say this to my competitor's face if it wasn't a joke? Now, apparently, this was some conversation that was misinterpreted. Clement and Marjolaine didn't think it was a joke, but apparently it was a joke about him taking hormones. None of us knew about this, obviously, before he posted this.
And then it goes on to say Daniel doesn't give a surname. We're going to assume Daniel Beckergaard, as they have been seen training together, Canyon athletes. Anyway, I've tried to be your friend and respect you as an athlete, but you've taken things too far. You lied, and we have witnesses.
We're not sure what the lies he's referring to there are. Lastly, to all the von Bergs, and especially Rodolph, which is Rudy's father, I wish you a much happier and sound life once you've received all the evidence on my behalf. I'm sorry you haven't achieved what you wanted in sport. Please accept that I've worked harder and smarter than you and your son. He then goes on another 4 slides in French, which we obviously couldn't understand at the time. It has since been translated, and it does seem like almost the French bit was pre-written, and then he added on these first 3 slides of kind of anger and frustration, because they're much more clearly and concisely kind of spread out, whereas the English is very angry. Yeah. We'll read through that too, just so you understand how much of these revelations Sam has actually gone into.
Yeah, so starts with, For a few years now, I've heard more and more rumours insinuating that I am doping and that my story is not clear. I've always managed to ignore them, but now my training partner Arta is also subject to these same accusations and sometimes even worse. I will not tolerate the word doping being linked neither to us nor to my father, a coach for over 25 years, nor to my staff. I chose my team because, above all, they are beautiful people in whom I fully trust and who also fully trust me. I have a strong family and amazing friends who know where I come from and the values I have.
Yep. And then he goes on and says, I also know that most of these rumours are based on the fact that the medical centre I work with is located in Girona, Spain. I started working with the centre and its staff, doctor, physiotherapist, osteopath, posturologist, physical trainer, etc. at the end of 2018 when I lived and trained there. This team has helped me in so many ways and I owe them a lot. That's why I'm loyal to them and why I continue to go there even 1 hour from my home. She helped me treat my digestive system, my deficiency, prevent and treat several injuries, improve my running economy. I took charge of my health early in my career because I knew it would be important to build the foundation for the performance rather than mindlessly training more and more. I knew that it would be essential to get where I am to invest in my health first and foremost, an approach to health that is less recognized in France because we only go to see the doctor when we are injured or sick. This centre is called the Senate Centre and above all, it is open to absolutely everyone.
Yeah. I think the rest we probably leave because it's more emotions, but if you want to go and check it out, then, well, you can't actually. I don't know why I'm saying that.
I think it's on the Slow Twitch forum post if you want to go and read the rest of it. He does carry on and he basically says that a lot of people are old school people who are still living in the Festina era, which is an interesting intake, and saying that holding over 300 watts for an Ironman is inhuman, and then also it's frustrated athletes who don't accept his progression, which has been linear since he was 13, people don't respect and don't have a work ethic that he works harder than everyone else. He says, I know I shouldn't waste time or energy on this, but the reality is it affects us greatly. I've worked way too hard for an ignorant person to ruin my career and my image with comments that are false. Wow.
Yeah, a lot to digest there.
Indeed.
So first off, before we kind of dive into some specifics there, we have got some responses as well. Specifically, we got one from the ITA, so the International Testing Authority, which was actually requested by Slow Twitch. You can see that on there. It says, it is not for the ITA to comment on the content of the post by Mr. Laidlow on Instagram. On a general note, we can confirm that the ITA receives on a regular basis through its confidential reporting platform, Reveal, suspicions of doping or alleged anti-doping rule violations across the over 50 sports that the ITA oversees internationally. The ITA cannot comment on the existence of or the status of an ongoing investigation, but we would like to assure the triathlon community that all information brought to our attention is meticulously assessed in full independence and always with the interests of the athletes to compete in a fair environment in mind. All allegations must be supported by sufficient verifiable evidence and be free from deliberate tarnishing, otherwise the presumption of innocence applies.
Yeah, pretty straightforward from them, as you would expect. And then Revon Berg's father has gone on Instagram to defend himself. He says, first saying that the son has nothing to do with the email on his first post, and then another post where he goes on a lot longer. The gist of it being Sam has slandered him by sharing what was a private email. Sam also refers to accusations that are not in the email that he apparently sent. We, as I haven't seen the email, so we're not sure exactly what was in it, but Sam portrayed that Rudolph is responsible for all the accusations, whereas Rudolph is saying that some of the things he's defending himself against weren't actually in that email. He also more than once tried to distance his son from all of it in the post, and then he threw some shade at Sam by saying a lot could also be said about the Senate Centre and a kid that was malnourished and overtrained from 13 to 18 and became the best in the world at 22, 23. So he got one dig in there in his post. And he put a photo of anti-doping.
I guess the interesting or odd thing here is that it's Sam that's essentially shone the light on all of this.
Yeah.
A lot of this information, a lot of the triathlon community, I'd say majority, were totally unaware of. But it's Sam's Instagram post that has now made everyone aware of this ITA investigation into Sam. This peculiar subject of Sam's feet growing at the age of 19. I mean, males' feet traditionally stop growing around the age of 20, so I'm not sure quite what the relevance is there, but it's in there.
Clearly, like, Sam obviously thought that this email was public, and he got the feeling that everybody had seen it, but I mean, we hadn't seen it, and I'm guessing most people hadn't seen it and still haven't. So he's now gone, in defending the email, revealed everything that was in that email, including this conversation with Clement Mignon and Marjolaine Pierre about hormones that they said it was, Sam says it was a joke by his girlfriend. They say it wasn't a joke, and I mean, unless you were there in that restaurant or wherever they were and you overheard them, I mean, come forward if you were, because we'd love to hear the juicy bits, but we'll probably never know, will we?
No.
We'll never know what was actually said. We also, as we said earlier, don't know who Daniel, who he respects as an athlete, is. We assume it's Daniel Bakkegaard, but we don't have any clarification on that yet. Daniel Bakkegaard hasn't said anything on the issue, and no other Daniel has come forward and said it was him. And then finally, Sam has revealed, and I don't really understand why he would do this, because we weren't aware of it, but he's revealed that he does and has regularly visited the Centre Senate in Girona, which is not even in the same country of where he lives. And he says an hour drive from him. And that Centre Senate has come under a lot of scrutiny because not too long ago, when Colin Chartier was busted, he volunteered, unprompted, that he had been going to Centre Senate, and that at the time he said that Centre Senate had nothing to do with it, but no one actually even asked him about Centre Senate at the time. And so that centre has come under a bit of scrutiny because that's where Colin Chartier, who definitely was doping, had been going. And now Sam has just not only said that he goes there, but also said that he's loyal to them and will stick with them. He's doubled down, basically, saying that he remains loyal to that centre, which is an interesting take when no one was asking.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting. He does finish off saying, I hope this will clarify a few things and that I will no longer hear these rumours that Arta and I giving each other injections and hormonal changes every year. But the fact of the matter is, it's almost left more questions than answers, and actually probably a few raised eyebrows from people that were none the wiser on all of this. So
he was hoping to stop the rumour mill, but I think he's fired up the rumour mill. Anyway, he deleted that post, as we've said. It's no longer there. You cannot see it. He's replaced it with an Instagram story, which says, I've archived my recent post concerning the accusation as I want to move on and pursue what needs to be done professionally. The reason I exposed this publicly is not to create a hate community against the people who have accused me, but to prevent such a defamation from happening again. I want people to love this sport and believe you can get to the highest level with passion and dedication alone. And he's drawn a little heart. And I think we're going to leave it there. We're not going to add any of our own opinions because we really don't know what to think at this point. If you do want to comment on it, you're welcome to use the comment section down below. Let us know what your thoughts are on this whole situation. But remember, please keep those comments respectful when you do comment.
Well, now moving on to race news, we had quite a bit of action this weekend. First off, with the Super League final in Nyon. That's how you say it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's how you say it, like a race car. Yeah.
It's quite a unique race. It's literally in the middle of the desert. So, I mean, there's nothing as far as the eye can see around them.
Some interesting posts of the people going to the triathletes heading to it, and they're passing like just digger, like, because there's thousands of diggers trying to build this massive new city.
The line.
Yeah,
pretty exciting. Anyway, so the Super League was over the enduro format, which is a continuous sort of 3-stage triathlon. So you're doing a 300-meter swim, 4-kilometer bike, 1.6-kilometer run, 3 times.
Yeah, 9 legs in a row with no break in between. Cassandra Brigand took the win there, and not really surprising, ahead of Kate Waugh with Jean Leher in 3rd place. And that means that the final standings for the series, Kate Waugh took the overall series title ahead of Jean Leher, with Emma Lombardi rounding out the podium for the overall series. And that brings a conclusion to the Super League series for another year, and a whole lot of money in all of their pockets.
Oh yeah, nice.
Pretty cool.
On the men's side, it was Leo Berger that took the win ahead of Hayden Wild and Alex Yee in 3rd. And the final standings are identical to that. So Leo Berger taking the overall win there. Interestingly, there was a bit of drama regarding Hayden Wild, because he earned one of the short shoots. You get to essentially take a bit of a shortcut on the course.
You earn this by winning the earlier legs,
yes.
and then in a later leg, your team captain can give you the short shoot or give it to any one of your teammates. He chooses whoever needs it to get the leg up, essentially.
And you would have thought, given that Hayden Wild was running almost neck and neck with Leo Berger to try and get the win, Hayden would get that. He didn't. It was actually handed to his other teammate, Henry Schoeman, allowing him to come in 6th, I believe it was.
Yeah,
so,
which
interesting.
meant that Hayden Wild was vulnerable to Leo Berger, who was in a head-to-head race with, who did actually get a little gap at the start of the run, and Hayden Wild couldn't close it down. So he got beaten, and yeah, no love lost, I think, between those two, because MG was actually having a good go at Hayden Wild last time for having making a mistake and going through transition, and so I'm not sure those two are going to be the best of friends.
Yeah, maybe we'll separate them.
Maybe they'll be in different teams next year.
We also had Ironman Portugal this weekend. Marjolaine Pierre took the win there. I believe it was her Ironman debut as well, which is very impressive in 8:49. Wow, quite a convincing win actually, looking at the times and analysing that now. Ahead of Anne Reichman in 2nd and Olivia Mitchell in 3rd. On the men's side, Peter Hemrick took the win there ahead of Dylan McNean and Antonio Lopez in 3rd. Interestingly, well, not interestingly, I guess unfortunately, Patrick Langer was sort of in contention in a pack behind and made an almighty mistake coming into T2, went the wrong way, which cost him 5 minutes.
Yeah, apparently followed the 70.3 athletes into their T2 and then found that his bike wasn't there. Yeah, so he said he actually posted this afterward. A hard lesson learned. The race was going well until it wasn't. Due to a lack of focus, I missed the entry to T2 at the end of the bike course and took a detour through the 70.3 transition, costing me about 5 to 6 minutes. An absolute nightmare situation. But like I said, I take full responsibility for my mistake. And yeah, he ended up in 4th.
I wonder if there was a matching number for him in the 70.3 race and he picked up someone else's bag, ran through, opened it up. So,
wrong shoes, yes.
Saucony shoes.
Can't run in those. I'd rather lose time. Yeah. And then also Challenge Vieux-Bacot, which we mentioned earlier, that sprint finish.
You're almost fluent now. That sounds so good.
Yeah. If you say it really quickly, people don't realise how badly you're butchering the name. Good. Yeah, so I'm not going to say it again now that you've said that. Matthias Margera ahead of Mika Nuit, who just didn't quite make it to the finish line there, with 70.3 world champion Rico Bogan in 3rd place. And on the women's side, Caroline Poole took the win ahead of Imogen Simmons, with Charlene Clavel rounding out the podium. Yeah,
it was quite a duel from the two on the women's side at the front of the race. It was quite exciting. We also had Tongyong World Cup, one of the World Triathlon events, and really exciting to see Gwen Jorgensen taking the win in, I believe it's her 3rd World Cup of this season, having come back after having 2 children and stepping away from the sport for a significant amount of time. And yes, she is going after trying to get one of the US spots for Olympic qualification. She's got her work cut out.
She does have her work cut out for her. There, she's got herself up to 45th ranking in the world, but she's only 8th in the USA standings. So there are 7 USA athletes ahead of her on those rankings. One of them is Taylor Knibb, who already has her slot for Paris. So there's 2 more slots for the USA. But like I say, there's 7 other girls.
I think the really tough thing here is her projection is looking really good. But the problem is she may not even be able to get into one of the events for that qualification because there's so many other athletes ahead of us.
She's giving it a good go though. Yeah, she's actually going to be in action again next week at another World Cup in Japan. So she's literally racing every week and getting better and better every time. So we cross our fingers for her. But yeah, she definitely, as we say, has her work cut out for her. On the men's side there at that World Cup, Tim Helwig took the win ahead of Ricardo Batista, with Sam Dickinson coming in 3rd.
Yeah, upcoming, we've got quite an exciting weekend of racing coming up with Ironman Florida. I believe it's not this weekend, it's the following weekend, isn't it? And because of the cancellation of Ironman Israel due to events over there at the moment, unfortunately, we've got a lot of athletes coming over to Florida. It's on the same weekend, so it is stacked. I mean, just for instance, on the men's side, we've got Magnus Ditlev, Joe Skipper, Rudy Von Berg, Matt Hansen, Cam Worth, Dennis Chevreau. Women's side, Sky Munch, Sarah True, Jocelyn McCauley, Ruth Assel, Janet. It goes on. Yeah. It's quite an impressive field.
Quite a few people trying to make the most of their season fitness before they call it an off season. So fingers crossed for all of them there. There's also 70.3 Los Cabos that same weekend. All right, now it's time to look at our pinboard and some of the photos you guys have sent us. Remember, this month we're looking for your photos of you taking on the weather, or, you know, enjoying the weather. The seasons are changing and it's turning into very much taking on the weather around here. Last week we had these photos of very snowy bikes and guys carrying their bikes through the snow, but there was no name on it, and we were like, not really sure what this is about, but whoever it was definitely taking on the weather. Well, they commented, and it's Underdog Triathlete here. He still didn't give his name, so we still can't. Underdog Triathlete. Yeah, he said, "Hi, all those anonymous pictures were sent by me." And they're still anonymous, but it's Underdog Triathlete. I included a description and a video, but my computer must have had some problems uploading them. Apologies for that. When I was a university student at Ohio State, I was part of a triathlon club, and each spring we took a training trip to the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina. We'd all rent a cabin in the foothills and bike up the mountains almost every day. Because of the time of year and the elevation change, you never knew what the weather you were going to get on the ride. And it just so happened that day of our big 80-miler, it snowed about a foot up in the mountains. We had prepared for cold weather, but nothing like that. We certainly didn't have the bikes that were suited for the snow. But once we were up there, none of us wanted to turn back. What was planned as a 4 to 5 hour ride took all day. And we had very cold fingers and toes by the time we got back, I can imagine. But it was an incredible experience, and one that we've talked about for years after. And I bet you're talking about that. I'd still be talking about getting through a long day in the snow like that too. Although I don't really, I wouldn't have enjoyed the cold fingers.
It's interesting. I've got a couple of memories like that where we've been caught in the weather, and at the time you're soaking wet, freezing cold, and it seems like the worst thing ever, but actually they're some of my fondest memories. They're just quite funny, and it was a big day and an adventure.
Yeah,
I quite enjoy it.
I do have a few like
Maybe
that.
I'm not selling it to the South African.
I'm still not saying that it was my fondest memory. I had a few times I was caught in bad weather, like in the Swiss mountains. Still not my fondest. I'll take the sunshine any day.
Right, next one from Israel in Girona, Spain. From the Scrail. He said, "The best event I've ever done. Challenging, fun, beautiful. Until this event, I've only done Olympic distance. The gravel part was the toughest for me, suffering cramps from 65 kilometers to 92 kilometers, but I completed it and I'm proud of it. If you want to do a special event, this is it." Jan Frodeno was there chatting with everybody, ready for selfies, anything. Obviously, he puts a lot of work into this and it shows. Awesome.
We can vouch for that. It is an awesome event, really cool vibe. Definitely got the vibe right at that race, and looks like he had a lot of fun. And then Christian sent this one from Copenhagen. "Even when the weather is gloomy and windy, you never regret a swim, and the water is still warm enough to go without socks and gloves." Again,
imagine it's getting close now in Copenhagen.
I'm going to have to agree with Christian here too. I don't think you do never regret a swim. I think maybe that is probably borderline, and anything below that, I would regret that swim.
Yeah. I think we're always going to struggle to sell this to James.
Yeah.
And finally, this one from no name and also no context.
Right.
But they're at a very nice outdoor swimming pool, and I think we can see rain droplets on the water, so I guess, we can constitute as embracing the weather.
Yeah, I can probably tolerate that. Getting rained on while I'm swimming, but that's weather I can probably actually tolerate. If the pool is warm enough, anyway.
But yeah, Uber fan here. They got one of the triathlon life hats from Eric Lagerstrom and Paula Finlay, and form goggles, Ironman water bottle. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Nice one. Well, keep your photos or videos coming in of you embracing the weather, be that in training, racing, whatever it may be.
Definitely more weather for you to deal with now in the UK, that's for sure.
Yeah,
so send us your photos.
Link on screen right now or in the description below.
Say what? All right, last week we had a discussion about the new Ironman series, the $1.7 million prize pool that Ironman is giving for a series of 18 races next year for the pros. And Ivan Cochran put this one, saying, "After Ironman World Champs now and Hauger's first ranked, with Gentle and Nib completing the podium, this seems to be much more accurate because Nib and Gentle don't run Ironman. It seems to me that to be ranked number one in the triathlon without running a full distance triathlon makes no sense, as that is the one that requires you to be the most fit and is the pinnacle of our sport. Anne, with her consistency in all distances, has a very well-deserved first spot now, and I think she should have been first even before Ironman World Champs. It is hard for me to think of Gentle and Nib completing that podium if they don't partake in a full distance." Okay, Nib now is a different story after Kona. What do you guys think? And this is quite interesting because, let's be honest, the PTO ranking system has come under quite a lot of fire over the years about how they do it and where it's weighted and that kind of thing. But it does definitely favour the PTO distances, particularly the PTO events, but mostly because they have so much money attached to them. But there is kind of not many Ironmans that have that much money attached to them, which means they don't have that many points attached to them, which means the ranking kind of favors middle distance athletes versus full distance athletes. And his argument, Ivan's argument is that perhaps that's not fair because Ironman is the pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah, so, and I mean, it kind of makes sense from an Ironman perspective as well, as to kind of favour the title event for them, the Ironman event, rather than the 70.3 event. And they're kind of taking that niche, I guess, or not niche necessarily, but that sector of the triathlon.
But it's not going to change the ranking and the points and the PTO ranking.
No.
Because this money is now bonus money, which comes at the end of the year. It won't be attached to any of the events, which means those events won't go to diamond or platinum status or gold status if they weren't before, which means they won't get more points in the PTO ranking system, which means still it will favour middle distance and 70.3 distance over full distance, and maybe the full distance guys are being a little bit screwed on the ranking system. That's his argument, and I actually kind of agree with him on that front. It takes a lot more effort, a lot more sacrifice. You have many more months before and during and after an Ironman to recover from, and then you get the same or less points than you would get from a 70.3 distance or a PTO distance. So it kind of almost pushing everyone to kind of favour more the middle distance instead of specialising on the iron distance, and that's potentially not such a good thing.
Be interesting to see how it plays out, won't it?
Interesting.
Yeah, very good comment though, and be quite interesting to just crunch a few numbers, wouldn't it? A few theories or suggestions.
We'll get old Torsten on the line and have a discussion with him.
And I imagine there's a lot of pros right now trying to figure that one out. Go, oh, how's it all going to play out?
You've got to work in your Ironman series points, but also your PTO series points to try and maximise both of those bonuses at the end of the year.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, tough times when you've got to choose where to get your money from.
It's a good time to be in the sport as a pro triathlete, that's for sure. Well, that is it for the show this week. We've got some pretty interesting stuff and videos we're quite excited about coming up on the channel very shortly. In particular, this weekend, another video from James when he went to Uzbekistan, because what we actually didn't reveal in the previous video is that James did that solely on run training, and not just for a short period of time. You have only been run training for a number of months, so
for quite a long time. I don't think it's a surprise to any of our viewers that I haven't been swimming, but I actually haven't been doing any biking either. And then I went to do a middle distance triathlon. We're going to make a video about that and discuss, basically why you shouldn't do that. Also, if you're looking for something to watch right now, we did a little video on an age group rookie at Kona and what she experienced there, and it's definitely worth watching. So if you're looking for something to watch right now, head over and click on that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.